Good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's Lunch and Learn program. I'm Alana Cohn-Kennedy, the Chief Operating Officer of the Holocaust Center for Humanity. I'm speaking to you today from beautiful Seattle, Washington, the traditional land of the Coast Salish peoples. I want to thank the Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany for supporting our Lunch and Learn programs. And thank you to all of you for tuning in today. Please let us know in the chat where you are joining us from. April is Genocide Awareness Month. Genocide Awareness Month is a designated time to raise awareness and educate people about the history and impact of genocide. The purpose of this month is to commemorate the victims of genocides that have occurred throughout history, to honor the survivors, and to learn from the lessons of the past in order to prevent future atrocities. Genocide is preventable. There are patterns and warning signs, and by taking action early, individuals and governments can turn the tide and save lives. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, in partnership with Dartmouth College, maintains a detailed and comprehensive statistical analysis called the Early Warning Project. The Early Warning Project produces a yearly ranked list of more than 160 countries based on their likelihood to experience a new mass killing. It also uses crowd forecasting tools to provide real-time updates and produces in-depth reports on high-risk countries. This information is available to all of us. We know the places at risk and the places where we should direct our attention and resources. Genocide and mass killing are an ongoing threat to our world, groups of people targeted for destruction because of their identity. Today, we are going to hear a remarkable story of survival and resilience from Gabriel Bol Deng, who was one of the Lost Boys of Sudan. Sudan's history is tumultuous. Today, the Early Warning Project rates Sudan, the northern Sudan, as number 9 on their list of over 160 countries at risk for new mass killing incidents. Gabriel Bol Deng was just 10 years old when North Sudanese militiamen led a violent attack on his village of Ariang in South Sudan in 1987. He escaped into a forest not knowing the fate of his parents or his siblings. Gabriel fled violence more than once. He found safety in refugee camps and eventually became part of the Refugee Resettlement Program in the US in 2001 as one of the Sudanese orphans known as the Lost Boys of Sudan. Gabriel has inspired thousands with his personal story of determination, resilience, and his desire to help South Sudanese children get an education. He is the founder of the Hope for Ariang Foundation, which provides inclusive access to quality education in South Sudan. Gabriel travels the world to inspire others and to show them that their hard work and that working towards one's dreams can help empower others. Gabriel will take questions from the audience at the end of the program. Please type your questions at any time into the Q&A option in Zoom. Gabriel, we are so honored to have you with us today, joining us from New York. I'll turn the program over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Alana and Chris and Holocaust Center for Humanity. It is a great honor to be sharing my life story in memory of those who have suffered and those who are not here with us. Chris, I would love you to show me to start my slide. Chris? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When I was young, my parents used to tell me that with hope, you could move mountain as big as Mountain Kilimanjaro. And I thought my parents were really very good parents. Next slide. So the title of my presentation, especially for those, is The Power of Hope to Move Mountains. And I'm going to talk about my experience. So next slide. Yeah, where is Sudan? You can basically see in Africa. That is just a pictorial where Sudan is in Northeast Africa. Next slide, please. Yeah, when war started, there are causes, and some of the causes of the war in the old Sudan, one of them is identity, as Len has alluded to, that the Sudan is best put by Dr. Grant. Next slide, let me do that. Yeah, actually, this is a quote from the founder of the Sudan People Liberation Army, and he said the problem of Sudan started in the beginning when the British hand over the power to this diverse community, the African and the Arabs. And when the British left, the Arab took over the power. And for the centuries, they had been oppressing, excluding the people of South Sudan and of African descent from the governance. Next slide. Yeah, this is one of the best that capture that the crisis of statehood. Again, it is the same thing that Dr. Garang has alluded to, that the including of the people of South Sudan and free from taking part in their development. Next slide. Yeah, this is just, I will be sharing my life story. What was my life like before Civil War? And my parents used to tell me that you don't need a lot of material wealth. You need only parents and a community. So before Civil War, my life was very happy. As you can see, there is no electricity, there's no running water, but my life was good. This is, next slide, my parent formula for life. They taught me that there is 10% of my life that I cannot control, and that there is this 90% of my life that I control through my actions, through my reaction when a problem happens. Next slide. Yeah, at age of 10, one of my child duty was to look after my family cows. And around January 1987, I remember my parents telling me that there is war going on in Sudan, and that when I'm out in the field with the cows, I need to be very careful. I did not take their message seriously, but the attack happened in my village at around 3 p.m. when I was away in the village. I was sitting in the tall grass when I heard the sound of a gun. So what I did, I ducked down and covered myself with the grass so that the militiamen could not see me. And I saw 4 militiamen carrying gun with them, and I hid myself. After a couple of minutes, I saw them running and taking my cows away. I started running home. Next slide. And this is what I saw when I came home. My parents were not home. My family was not home. I lose hope of finding them, so I ran into the forest. Next slide. Yeah, at night I had to encounter the wild animal, especially a lion. So what I did, I made good decision, because part of my family education was that to always make good decision in any problem you face. So I ran up the tree to spend the night. And then the following morning, after almost dying from starvation, from cold, a group of people came and they found me on the tree and they told me to come along them. Next slide. Yeah, we came along the Nile, and this was at that time, Sudan was all over. The villages were being bombed. There was no safe haven for us. So a decision was made to run to Ethiopia. And one of the challenges was to cross the Nile. And I was lucky to be alive and to be speaking today, because some of my colleagues did not make it across. They were swept away by strong current of water, or they were eaten by crocodiles. But by luck and hard work, I survived. Next slide. Yeah, we walk about 5,000 miles, the group called the Lost Boys of Sudan, from Sudan to Ethiopia. And along the way, a lot of the kids died from starvation, from hunger, from thirst. And one night, I was almost died because 4 of my best friends died in the desert. And at that time, I had a snake bite. The journey was very tough, and I almost gave up hope. But I had a dream, my parents telling me that they told me hope was very important, being resilient, to move a mountain. And my mountain was the challenges that I had, and that I should never lose hope, be resilient, I will be okay. Next slide. Here I arrived in the refugee camps, and this was how we used to cook our food. And challenges were very many. One of them is depression. I almost lost my leg because of snake bite, and I was depressed. I was angry. I was bitter, and I thought I was going to die. But one night, I had a dream, and my parents were talking to me that the idea of the 10% and the 90%. They told me war and the conditions that I was in the camp were part of the 10% that I cannot control. But if I can be positive, if I can be resilient and be hopeful, I will have a better life and I will overcome those challenges. And at the end of the dream, I fell off the bed. I opened my eyes. I found myself in the refugee camp again. But that changed my life. Every time I have a problem, I divide it into two. Is it a 10% that I cannot overcome? Or I can use part of the 90%? My attitude, my action, and resilience to overcome the challenges. Next slide. Yeah, this was me because of UNHCR, UNICEF, USAID. A school was open, and this is where I used. This was actually me in the blue and green. This was in 1996, and these are small huts where I used to study, and it was very tough, but I believe in education. That education will help me one day to be a better person and to help other people, especially my country. Next slide. Lucky enough, in 2000, we were asked by the US government that some of us were going to come to the US, and I was one of the lucky few that was selected to come. Out of 20,000, I was one of the 4,000 kids who were selected in the refugee camp to come to the United States. Next slide. Yeah, after I came here, I had challenges. I went to college. I got a job, and I was working. And then in 2007, I graduated from college, and I decided to go back home because at that time, I felt that I was an incomplete human being because it had been 20 years since 1987, the day I fled, until 2007. So I decided to go back so that I can reconnect with my family, because part of me felt that I will be an incomplete human being if I could not go back to really find out what happened to my family. So in this case, my parents did not survive the war, they died. But when I went, my relatives welcomed me with a huge celebration. They were so happy to see me again because they thought I was dead 20 years ago and they thought I would never come back. But by luck, I went back and I found two of my brothers. Next slide. Yeah, two of my brothers, me in between. The one on the left is my brother, and the one is the older one, and the younger one after me. These are, before war, we were 9 of us, but now only 3 of us who are alive. These 2 brothers survived because they ran to the north. They were in a displaced camp in the north. That's one of the reasons that they survived. And then they came back. Next slide. Yeah, this is, every parents always have something in store for their kids. When I went, this is my mom's sister that I was showing me the tree. That tree, they said this is where my mom was buried that time 20 years ago. And then out of her grave, that tree grew out of it. And she was telling me that your mom knew you would come back. And when you come back, you may not find her physically, but you will find her in a form of shade. And you know the importance of shade in Africa or anywhere in the world. When you feel hot, when you feel you go that. So I reflected on the tree that grew out of my mom's grave, and it was so touching. So every time I go, I reflect there. Next slide. Yeah, what I found in a village, when I left, there was no formal education in the village. So it was parental education, but because of war, because of NGOs, international organization, and because of the importance of education, the people in the village started a school under a tree. So I went to the school. As you see me teaching, this is a boy, this is a girl under a tree. I promised the kids and the people in the village that I will come back to the United States. I will talk to my friend and I will build the school for the village, because education is very important for the village and for the country. Next slide. Yeah, well, I started my dream with 200 t-shirts, and we launched the program, because part of me, after I came back to the US, at that time I was a graduate from college, and part of me, I was torn apart. That is, should I just move on with my life, or do I have human obligation to try to help the kids in the village to have a decent school, to have better education? And my mom always said that I'm a better human being when I help other people. Myself, though I had not seen my parents, I had been helped along the way, and I felt that it is time for me to pay forward to help other people. So I lined my dream to build a school. Next slide. Yeah, one of the challenge was really two things here. A lot of kids died from cholera and other water-related diseases. So we had to drill a well to do two things: to prevent the people from the village from dying from from the disease resulting from bad water. And then, as you all know, in Africa, girls, majority of the girls don't go to school simply because of domestic duties, like fetching water. So in this case, we had to drill the well so that young girl can come to the school. Next slide. And you can see, yeah. So Ariang and other villages is about 10,000 people. So we ending up drilling six wells across villages. Next slide. Yeah, you can see how happy the kids are. See, in 2009, when we first drilled these wells, not a single child has died from cholera and other water-related diseases. Next slide. Yeah, one of the things was to involve the community in building the school for the kids. And the community made over 500,000 bricks and made, and then we start building the school for their kids. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the school today, and we have over 3,000 kids now because of the uniform, because of good teaching in the schools, and the kids are happy getting good education, and it would have not been possible without the support from wonderful people in the United States. Next slide. Yeah, everywhere there are challenges. So one of the challenges when I came here, new challenges in the US was snow, and even I don't like snow during the snow time. And then I have some of the cultural, especially riding in subway was very tough and was amazing. And then I continue with my education. And next slide. Yeah, this is the part. I think most of the survivors, people ask me, Gabriel, why do I share my story? It's very painful. I have gone through. I say no, because I'm a human being, and I felt that I have an obligation to share my stories so that one day when someone had a problem, they will remember that I had overcome my obstacles, and if I have overcome an obstacle, they could also come. So one of the important things is never give up hope. My parent taught me, and seeing then hope is very important. So I hope when someone in his own or her own problems, he will remember Gabriel is talked to us and he never lose hope. Then idea of being positive, especially for the students and parents, respect our friends and respect elders, especially our guys, is very important. Positive attitude and work hard can be success. Dream and believe in your dream. And then use the 10 and the 90% rule that my parent told me. Yeah, the yellow limousine here. Sometimes I tell kids that the kids in the United States are so special because every morning they would get a school bus. So I call a school bus a special yellow limousine, taking special people to schools so that they get good education, come back in the society, and work hard. And Duncan Dunnett say America runs on Duncan, but I always say I believe America runs on hardworking people, and that really what makes United States a great country, because Americans are hardworking people, and they are not helping. They are not helping. They are not here only helping themselves, but they are helping people around the world, like people like me. Without the support from the United States, I would have not survived in the refugee camp because of the donation, all of this. So this is really some of the lessons that I want people to take away from my story. Next slide. Yeah, this is our site. If you want to contact us, you can reach us through our website. And I'm really honored to have shared my life stories. And I would love to welcome any question. Feel free to ask any question. I would be happy to answer. And thank you so much.
Gabriel, thank you so much for giving us a little background and for sharing your story with us. There's several questions, and I want to start just by asking you if you can tell us a little bit more about what that journey was like out of Sudan and to Ethiopia. I know it's a huge story, and it's probably impossible to share or summarize in just a short period of time, but can you tell us a little bit more about what that was like? I mean, you were 10 years old, right?
I was 10 years old. It was very, very tough. Part of it is you were like just walking into wilderness. The good thing is along the way, I found other survivors who were also running away from the village. At that time, we were very young. We didn't know where we were going, but there were adults that were telling us that they were running to Ethiopia, that there was a refugee camp. And Ethiopia at that time has opened its door to welcome the refugees. So we were running where we will find safety, where we will find refuge. And along the way, we find people. And that's what I always tell people. It was a 4-month journey. 4 months journey. And I always tell people I would have not survived if I was by myself alone. But the fact that along the way we form friendship, we look for one another. And I remember our group was more than 500.
Wow.
Mostly kids with a few adults. In the beginning, a lot of kids and a lot of people were dying because there were no support systems. So what they did, they divide people into 10, and 10 of us now are families. And then depending on your age or depending on your courage, you will be selected as a leader of this group or couple of us, so that we can encourage one another, look for one another. And then so it was really very, very tough, more than I could, but it was very, very, very tough. But the fact that we were together, and even it was I did not talk about that, very difficult to find food. So some of us, we have to improvise, eat much. And especially there was this about 1 or 2 weeks in the desert where water was very, very, very hard. So the decision was made to stay during the day because it was very hard, and then start working at night. So it was a very, very tough journey. But I would have not survived if I was by myself. And that is really indication we need one another. That humanity is better together, and because of camaraderie, friendships, and the care that we had for one another really made us. Or even after we came to the refugee camp, what was it like? There were over 30,000 in the refugee camp in Ethiopia. These 30,000, these are just what they call unaccompanied minors. The term Lost Boys, they gave it to us when we came to the US. about 4,000 of us made it to the U.S. And it was an idea, they got the idea from Peter Pan, the orphan kids in Peter Pan book. So, and they say the Lost Boys of Sudan, but previously they called us unaccompanied minors, over 30,000. And what they did was we were divided into family again, but a bigger family. 30 of us are families. So, and then there's a group leader. Then there are each one of them. So we work together. We encourage one another.
Yeah. So you mentioned something that piques my interest a little bit when you said even when you started, when you were leaving Sudan and walking, and there were hundreds of you, somebody must have taken, or some group of people must have taken some leadership position to divide you into smaller groups.
Yeah, into yeah. There was that some adults in the group came to a realization that without establishing that leadership, then everybody was going to God. There was no caretaker. So, and they came to the realization that having a leadership, forming leadership, so that we can take care of one another was very important. Yeah.
And this is an incredibly long journey, especially for kids. You talked a little bit about the water, but what did you eat along the way?
Yeah, especially that the tapas along the way, especially from my area, is a far western part of Sudan. So along the way, when we came, we get food from the local. Sometimes they slaughtered cows, but after we crossed the almost 1 month, literally the food we had got finished. So we have to improvise, eat leaves, eat mud, and then along the in the desert, we were able to kill some animal, but we were so weak. So it was very, 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 very tough, situation.
So Gabriel, there's a couple questions here about your journey. Carla asks, was it only lost boys and no girls?
That is a very good question. Yeah. In the cultural context, usually there are lost girls too. I think about 50 who are among this. But culturally, in this case, more boys were separated from their family because in a cultural setting, girls are always home, taking care of kids. Boys are always looking after the cows. So when the village was attacked, it was most likely boys who are separated from the family. For example, in my case, I was out looking after the cows. My sister, I have two sisters, were home. So and most of the girls were not along the journey. But throughout the process of the lost boy, there are lost girl too. But the explanation, either girl were either killed with their parents, or they were I think long time there was this what they call slavery in South Sudan. One of the objective, let me be more one of the strategy for the North when they send the militia was that mostly young boys and girls were taken to the North and sold into slavery. And part of the objective was that this was the rebellion started in 1983, and the government in Khartoum, how they used to do was to wipe South Sudan of young people. So boys were targeted as a way, or young people as a way of preventing them to join the rebel movement. So, and that was the objective. Mostly young people, especially girls and women, were abducted and taken into North Sudan.
So Gabriel, this wasn't that long ago. So what happened to those people who were taken and then taken into slavery?
Yeah, I think a lot happened after 21 years of war from 1983 to 2005. A peace agreement was signed. And one of the conditions of that peace agreement was that people of South Sudan demanded self-determination,
Mhm.
so that in the event when the peace was signed, one of them was people of South Sudan will be given a self-determination interim period for 6 years. And after 6 years, they will vote to determine their own destiny, to remain as a part of Sudan or to be a separate country. So after 6 years, well, first of all, what happened? The CPA was signed called Comprehensive Peace Agreement. And that means the former rebel government in Southern Sudan formed a government in Sudan, and Southern Sudan had been its own self-autonomy government for 6 years. And then during the 6 years from 2005, now we became one country, became a coalition government. So those people were free to return back to South Sudan. And then in 2010, 2011, people of Southern Sudan voted, and 99.8% voted to be a separate country. So South Sudan became a separate country as of 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That was a good question.
Yeah. So Gabriel, another question here comes from Jill, who wants to know, was there a common language used among all of the refugees and those who were trying to help them? How did you all communicate with each other?
In the refugee camp or along the way?
Maybe both.
Yeah, both. Yeah, along the way we came from different tribes. South Sudan has over, I think, 64 tribes. In the beginning, in few months, we were not able to understand ourselves. So, but like for me, when I left the village, I didn't know how to speak Arabic. So, but along the way, there were some members of my family, of my tribe, that we speak the same language. It took a while. Sometimes we find a translator. This is from the very beginning, because I speak my own language. When I left the village, I didn't speak Arabic. Somebody speak his own language, so there were already some elders or people to do translations among us, until later on they established schools. That's one of the reasons that school was first established in the refugee camp. The school started by the refugees themselves. Those adults who went to schools, those adults who know English in Sudan, were able to establish schools and teach us ABCD in Arabic, ABCD in English, until later on the United Nations, Save the Children, and UNICEF were able to support that system. And the goal was so that we can understand each other. Yeah, that was the goal. And mainly, Arabic is a national language in Sudan, and now in South Sudan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's two questions here, and I'm going to kind of tie them together. Carla asks, how long were you in the refugee camp? And then the other question is, can you describe the process for being chosen to come to the United States? How did you become one of the 4,000 boys to come to the US?
Yeah. Yeah, from 1987 to 2001. So probably, so it is about 13, 14 years.
14 years in the refugee camp.
In the refugee camps.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got a word in 99. We were asked to write our life. We started the process of coming to the US in 99. That we were asked to write our life stories, submitted it to UNHCR, that some of us will come to the United States. So you write your life stories.
Wow.
How did you leave South Sudan? Where are your parents? All of this. And then in 2000, they start the interview. Out of 30,000, you must have some luck. So out of 30,000, only 4,000 was chosen. I was one of the lucky few. So remember, 99, we submitted in. They took your picture, a photo size picture, and you write your life story. You submitted it. And then in 2000, they start posted your name on a notice board near the UNHCR office. So you go in the morning to check your name, and then if your name appear, you will go for the interview, and that's where you meet with officials from U.S. migration, and then you do interview. They ask you your life story, make sure it is you who wrote the story, and then just a basic question: why did you leave Sudan? Where are your parents? And all of this. And then if you answer them, you spend probably another 2 weeks. And then after 2 weeks now, they put your name again out on the notice board. And then now you know you're going to the US, you'll be told to be ready. At any time you'll be told. And then the next step after that, your name will be out that you are departing to the US. Like for me, I got my approval August 2000. To 2000. And then January 2001, I was officially informed that I was going to go to the US. And then February 8th, 2001, I was told on that I will go to the US. So 2 days before I come to the US, they do orientation. What do you expect if you are coming to East Coast, New York, then there is snow, all of it. They do basic cultural orientation. Who will be your sponsor? So in this case, some of you are aware, Catholic Charity on Adaga County was my sponsor. So they sponsor me. And February 12, I left Africa and arrived here on February 14, 2001.
Wow.
And they have a support system here because I was an adult. I was 21 years old. My English was good because I was in high school in the refugee camp. So after 6 months, I go for like job training skills, language, if I need to improve my language. And then after 6 months, I will have support systems. And then after 6 months, I was able to get a job. And then I was on my own. So, but I had a strong desire to continue with my education. So I did GED. I was in 12th grade in 2001, but I did not graduate from high school in Africa. So I did GED. I studied on my own, and then I passed. I went to community college, and then I went to 4-year college, Lemoyne College. So I'm a math teacher. So I have a master in education in mathematics.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Gabriel, was it after so many years in the refugee camp and such formative years, I wonder, was there a part of you that found it difficult to leave? Like you must have created an entire life for yourself there.
Yeah, but this is what happened because after I got my letter that I was coming to the US, I was really torn apart. There was part of me that was afraid that going to the US, it was like going to the refugee camp, like moving into the wilderness. Who will you meet there? Who will you meet the way? What would life be? So I had these questions that should I go to the US? I said no. Part of me was saying no. If I go to the US, I may not come back to Sudan. Or going to the US will make it difficult or will elongate the probability of me to come back in the event peace will come to South Sudan. Then now I came, this is what was going on in my dreams when I got that. I said, okay, what I know through the books, I read so much about America, is a land and opportunity. So I said, yeah, which Gabriel will be more helpful? Gabriel is staying in the refugee camp, and if peace come, I will cross the border, go back in the village. In that case, I won't have education except 12th grade education. How useful will I be to the country? How useful will I be to my family? Or Gabriel, that what I believe, and that what was I debating in my mind. If I come to the US, I will have an opportunity not only for a better life, but I will have an opportunity to get an education. And getting an education will make me here to improve my life. And then I will now be able to do more for my people in South Sudan. So I said, okay, I will choose Gabriel that will come to the US and I will work hard, get good education, and give back to the country. And that is what we basically had. Without the support and my education and network here, these 3,000 kids in South Sudan won't have an education. There are somewhere in university now who have graduated from primary schools that we have started, and now on their way to most of them have, some of them have graduated from college. Last year we established a scholarship because our program ran primary school from 1 to 8, but we have established a scholarship program whereby we sponsor the kids who have finished in our primary school to continue with their secondary education. And now we have over 25 students who are in the secondary schools.
Wow.
Yeah.
What can you describe for us what it was like when you came to the United States? So what were your first impressions? I mean, here you are, you're in your early 20s, you arrive here. What did you
it was one of the things. I went to the there's this local, I think it's not Walmart. Walmart. I went to Walmart here. I saw a lot of food, and I say this is a lot of food sitting in the store, while in the refugee camp there's hardly nothing, hardly nothing. And I have some cultural shock, like I never seen snow. So when I first came, which was February 14, there were a lot of snow. So I thought snow was sugar on the ground. And I say, America, is that so good, to the extent that they are wasting this huge amount of sugar to be on the ground. Any other question? There was another point, second to the question. What was that?
Yeah, there's a few more questions, actually. Okay. So one of them has to do with, do you keep in touch with any of the other Lost Boys, either who you met along the way or who you came to the United States with?
Yeah, even in Syracuse here, Syracuse has a huge, a large number, a good number of the Lost Boys. We are about more than, would be more than, so the Sudanese population here is about 800 with the families. And now, not anymore, not only boys, we have families. So like I shared with you, I have 5 kids now. So in Syracuse here, there are over 50 Lost Boys. Now they have their families, and we do keep in touch. I have some of my friends in Arizona. I have some of my friends in Chicago. We still keep in touch. Some people have gone back to South Sudan. So we keep in touch. We have a community. We have we have developed that friendship. Yeah.
So Gabriel, you mentioned that you are the father to 5 kids, and there's a great question here from Devonshire who writes, it sounds like your relationship with your parents and their parenting style really helped you survive some unimaginable circumstances. Do you have any advice for parents raising children to persist through life's unexpected challenges?
Yeah, but one of it is, now I'm beginning to experience what my parents used to tell me. And I always tell my parents, don't give up on your kids. Kids sometimes have tendency we parents feel sometimes our kids are not listening to us enough. And I think that is one of the biggest, because this is what I'm experiencing now, and I imagine my mom was like that. As a parent or a teacher, part of your you don't know which lesson, which particular things you think your child will carry on. But believe it or not, all of us were in the same position. We were one-time kids, and all of us remember. So one of my advice is, don't give up on your kids. Try the best you can. And believe me, they are learning. They are learning in the process. There will be 1, 2, or 3 things they will remember from you. Like for one thing, I always say, if my mom were alive, and if she were afforded an opportunity here, like in the US, she will be a psychologist. So because my mom is always about attitude, she always say attitude is very important. So, and my advice to parents, to never give up on your child. Try the best you can, and believe me, they are learning in the process. Like for me, my mom one time told me, one time, I think this was around 83, I saw a military helicopter flying before the war. I saw military helicopter flying overhead in the evening, afternoon around 3. So I rushed in the kitchen. My mom was cooking. I rushed to her. I grabbed her hand and I brought her and I show her the military helicopter gunship, and said, "Oh, this is something cool. I want to be like that." She glanced me with those motherly eyes. I could tell she was not happy. And she said, "Do you know who they are and what they do? And if you insist to be that kind of the person in that plane, then I'm raising you for nothing. Because these people kill people. So, and I don't want you to be that kind of people. I want you to be a helper, to be kinder, and to help people. But this military helicopter is hunting for rebels, for something. So this is not. So, and that is always my advice. Try your best. Don't give up on your child. Believe me or not, they will remember 1, 2 things from you.
Gabriel, there's another question here from Marie who asks, have you taken your children back to South Sudan? And I would also be curious, do you talk about your own personal experiences with your children? Do they know your stories?
I think my older one and the 3 one, 15 years old, almost 10 years old now, and 8, they understand. They have been to some of my presentation, but the twins are almost 2. So these are the people who are not really aware. Yeah, I have taken the older one, only the twins. The twins have not been to South Sudan, but I have taken them there. Yeah, to the village. They went there. They were there. They look after cows. We went. Yeah. We crossed the river. They have their goats. One time, my son is in the 5th. He's going to. So they did presentation, 2 of my kids, and one of her friends. They did a presentation about their origin, their country, and then one of their friends told them, "No, you are not from South Sudan. Your descendants are from South Sudan." And my son said, "No, I'm a South Sudanese American. I have my house, I have my goats, I have my cows in South Sudan. So how can I not be from South Sudan?" Yeah.
And your brothers are still there?
Yeah, my brothers are there with their wives and kids. Yeah, and my kids and their kids. Yeah, with technology now, they keep in touch. Yeah.
Gabriel,
they live. My kids, they live in we live in Nairobi for 3 years.
Okay.
And then we came back. Yeah.
So, Gabriel, one last question for you. I'm wondering, will you have done remarkable work in South Sudan? Can you tell us what you have planned next to do, and what else you're working on now?
Yeah, there are 3 things we are working on. One of the challenges now is secondary school. So one of my goals is to build secondary schools. Every year, we graduated 40 to 60 kids, and the number is increasing. And those kids, unfortunately, there is no secondary school in the village. So those kids had to walk 3 hours to another village. So one of my goals is to add a new wing to be a secondary school so that the kids who have completed primary schools can continue on with their 12-year education. Another thing is clinic. Clinic, there is no clinic in this village of 10,000 people. So my goal is to build community clinics so that kids and especially mothers can have access to health services. Like Sudan is one of the, South Sudan is one of the lowest child mortality rate. So it's one of the biggest things that I want to do. So these three things, a community clinic is a secondary, so that because health and education go hand in hand. And now we have graduated more than, now since 2011, so we have graduated more than 1,000 kids from primary schools. And in 2007, if I send a letter here to my brothers, they will go to another village, look for somebody to read that letter. But now it's very easy. And especially we have tripled the attendance for girls because of those wells that we have drills. So every year we graduate young girls and young boys. So I see transformation in the village, and that is really the biggest accomplishment we have done. People able to read, when 10 years ago you cannot find somebody to read English or Arabic in that part of the, so they have to go on to the town to find somebody to read what I have sent to them. But now we are seeing the impact of our hard work.
This is remarkable what you have done. I mean, you are truly an inspiration to all of us, what a person who's motivated can accomplish. I mean, it's really, you have transformed this town that you are from. I mean, you have changed it in so many ways. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for sharing your story with us today and for telling us about your experiences and for inspiring us.
No, thank you so much, and I thank everyone for coming in, and wonderful to share my life story, and looking forward to be in touch and share more.
Yeah, I hope we can do more together for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you for joining our program today. One of the biggest compliments you can give to us is to share this program with a friend or a colleague or a family member. You can send them a link to the program. It's been recorded and we will have it posted on our website starting tomorrow. This will help other people find our Lunch and Learn programs and just hear about Gabriel's amazing story. I invite you to please join us in a couple of weeks on the evening of Monday, April 17th, to commemorate Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day. You can attend the program in person at the Holocaust Center in Seattle or watch online, and all the details are available on our website. Our next Lunch and Learn program is on the first Tuesday of May 2nd, with the brilliant Dr. Barbara Warnock, who will discuss the Nazi genocide of the Roma and Sinti and the challenges of curating an exhibit on this topic for the Wiener Holocaust Library in London. I want to thank our fantastic team at the Holocaust Center, whose hard work and dedication make these programs and others such a success. Thank you to Richard Green, our Museum and Technology Director, who is running this Lunch and Learn program behind the scenes. And thank you to Dee Simon, our outstanding CEO, and to our entire team, Lori Werschel-Cohen, Paul Regelbrug, Jessica Michaels, Morgan Romero, Amanda Davis, Devin Shirelocki, Katie Lawrence, Branda Anderson, Anna Morris, Demetria Spinrad, and Lexi Jason. Thank you again to all of you for joining today's program, and we hope to see you at our Yom HaShoah program on Monday, April 17th at 7 p.m. and at our next Lunch and Learn program on May 2nd. This concludes our program for today.